Chapter 20. Joseph sighed. 30 minutes earlier, Joseph sighed after he ended the conversation, rubbing his aching shoulder. He checked the location one last time before he turned off the location tracker. He placed all the electronic stuff inside a custom-made metal case that's untraceable. He took a look outside at the car he was hiding in before exiting. He went to the back of the car and kept the metal case in the trunk. Joseph shut the trunk and made sure the car is in lockdown before he silently make his way to the castle. He stopped a few times to avoid the guards patrolling the woods as he tracked his way to the castle. He was about to reach the castle when he accidentally stepped on a twig, alerting a close-by guard.
Have you heard that?
Joseph slapped his forehead and cursed himself silently. He eyed the tree above him before climbing it. He was at the top by the time the guards arrived. They looked around suspiciously and sniffing the air for a scent. Well, good thing Joseph applied a scent blocker before exiting the car. One of the guards frowned.
Search the place.
With that, the guards shifted and scattered. Joseph waited for the guards to go more further before he jumped from tree to tree to reach the castle's garden. He hopped down and landed silently. He took a look of his surrounding before he jogged to the castle wall. He frowned as he looked at the wall. It's quite hard to climb, but it's not like he didn't climb a harder one before. He walked from the front to back to find an open window, and to his luck, there was actually one. That's on the 4th floor. He huffed and tugged his gloves higher and started climbing with the irregular bricks. After a few grueling minutes, he finally reached the 4th floor. Now he just had to jump over to that ledge below that open window. Joseph sighed. He looked up at the sky with closed eyes.
Why life? Why?
Joseph sighed one more time before he started swinging his leg that was closer to the ledge. 1, 2, 3. Joseph let go of his grip on the wall and pushed off with his other leg with all the strength he had, and jumped. He stumbled when he landed and tilted backwards. Joseph's eyes widened as his hand shot out quickly to grab onto the window glass. Joseph let out a relief sigh when he managed to save himself before plunging down 4 floors. He pulled himself forwards and hopped into the room. He walked towards the door and opened it slightly to check for any people. When there was none, he opened it fully and walked out. He closed the door behind him silently and started to make his way to the servants' staircase. The hidden door is on the floor above, so he started his journey up the barely lit stairs. Once he reached the 5th floor, he had again pushed open the door slightly to check for any sign of life before he exited the staircase. He speed-walked towards the east wing. The hallway was quite deserted except for a few maids doing their jobs, so the way there was quite easy. From what he had tracked before, the painting is right around...
Aha.
Joseph whispered as he looked at the painting of a giant gold wolf a few feet in front of him. Joseph smirked as he jogged to the painting. He reached out and was about to tilt the painting when he heard the unmistakable sound of a throwing knife flying. Joseph quickly jumped back a few steps as a throwing knife lodged onto a nearby pillar. He frowned at it and glared at the offender as an Asian walked out from the shadow. But when he locked eyes with the offenders, his face went black and his eyes widened.
No, please, it can't be.
Joseph wanted to deny it, but the intoxicating scent his offender was projecting was confirming everything he was thinking. His offender's eyes had too widened when he locked gaze with Joseph. Joseph saw him sniff the air before he whispered.
You're my...
Joseph's eyes hardened as he took a fighting stance. He glanced at the painting his offender had blocked.
Move aside.
Joseph gritted out. His offender looked a bit heartbroken before he shook his head. After that, his face turned emotionless, as he too took a fighting stance.
No can do, hybrid. I have orders to guard this room. I won't let you in.
Then his face turned sad.
Even if I have to hurt you to protect it.
Joseph's face softened before he glared at the man.
Then I have to fight my way in then. All of the people that could be his mate, why does it have to be someone that is his enemy?
Joseph thought sadly.
Even if it pains me to do it.
Joseph whispered, heartbroken. His offender's stance flattered a bit, but hardened when Joseph threw a throwing knife at him that appeared out of nowhere. His offender pulled out dagger and blocked the stray knife. When he lowered his hand, Joseph was already in front of him with his own dagger raised high. He raised his dagger to block Joseph when he brought it down. During that, they locked eyes again, and Joseph felt his resolve melting. Joseph could feel his strength leaving, so he did a round-off and landed a few steps away.
I wish we could have met in a better circumstance.
His offender said. Joseph frowned.
We couldn't even if we meet outside this fight.
Joseph said sadly. He took his stance again before saying,
I'm with the werewolves while you're with the vampires. Considering you stopping me from getting into that room full of wolfsbane, then you're working for the king then.
His offender frowned a bit before he launched a few throwing knives at Joseph at the same time. Joseph managed to the first few, but the last one managed to nick his neck. He hissed and pressed his palm at the stinging wound. His offender's eyes widened as he took a step forward. Joseph quickly raised his dagger at him and charged. He exchanged blows with his offender, ignoring his slowly dripping wound. He noticed his offender kept glancing at his wound, so he took that as his advantage and swiped his leg at his offender's, making him fall to the ground. Joseph wasted no time as he sat on his offender's stomach, his dagger angled at his neck. His offender's hand shot out to grab onto his wrist, pushing back while Joseph pushed forward. Then he tightened his grip on Joseph's wrist, making him wince and dropped the dagger. His offender pushed the dagger away and flipped them. Now his offender was above him as he pinned Joseph's arms above him. Joseph tried loosen the grip on his wrist, but his offender was way stronger than him, so he used his only weapon left. He concentrated on the pull on his stomach as the pot of plant a few feet behind his offender started to grow. The plant that grew was different than the one that was already in the pot, as it was pink in color as it slithered towards them. Soon the plant was above his offender's head. His offender looked up and frowned.
What?
Joseph held his breath as the plant's flower bloomed and sprinkled some powder onto his offender's face. His offender sneezed as his grip loosened on Joseph. His offender started feeling drowsy, and soon he was unconscious on top of Joseph. Joseph took a deep breath after the plant slithered back into the pot. Joseph gently pushed his offender off of him and stood up. He took in his offender, his mate's peaceful sleeping face, and his face softened.
The sleeping powder will wear off in a few minutes. He'll be fine.
Joseph assured himself before he walked towards the painting. He tilted it and the hidden door beside the painting opened. Joseph took in the vials and vials of in the violet liquid and cursed again at the king's cruelty. He took a look around the room and saw a big machine at the back of the room. He walked over and took a look at the machine. From the looks of it, then this must be the machine that will evaporate the wolfsbane and spit it into the air then. He opened the lid and saw that there was a few vials in it. He slowly took them out and placed them at the table. He took a look inside and willed his dagger to appear into his hand. Then he proceeded to cut all the wires in it. Since it wasn't containing any bomb, then the more damage the better. For precaution, he cut off the electrical supply of the machine and willed it far away from here, maybe a few feet under the ocean. He patted himself at the back and closed the lid. He took a look around the wolfsbane-filled room and think of a place to send it to. Then he remembered that Bethany said King Grayson wanted evidence of one of the mole in the Golden Wolf pack, and he grinned. He grabbed a piece of paper and a pen and wrote a simple note on it.
Are these enough of an evidence? Joseph, your estranged cousin.
He grinned and placed it together with the vials of wolfsbane. He closed his eyes and concentrated on the memory of the picture his dad once showed him of the royal dining table of the Red Wolf Pack, and when he opened his eyes, all the vials of wolfsbane were gone. Grayson walked to the dining room together with Quinn, arms linked. Just when they sat down and the maid was about to place the plates, vials of violet liquid appeared out of nowhere. The maid screamed in fright and dropped the plates. Grayson stood up quickly and looked at the overflowing vials of violet liquid.
What the hell?
Quinn picked up one of the vials and gasped. She turned to Grayson. Grayson, these are wolfsbanes. Grayson snapped his head to her as his eyes narrowed.
What?
Grayson glanced at the dozens and dozens of vials and saw a piece of paper. He reached over and picked it up. He laughed heartily when he saw it. Quinn looked at him bemused. What does it say? Grayson gave her the paper to read.
Looks like this cousin of mine is just as crazy and impulsive as his father,
Grayson said with a smile, remembering the times when his father will scold his uncle when he did something impulsive and crazy during his missions. Grayson grinned.
He'll fit right in.
Joseph grinned and tapped his in-ear.
It's all settled now. I've transferred the wolfsbane somewhere else, somewhere more safe.
He heard Bethany sighed. Got every last of them? Bethany whispered.
Yep. Even left a little note.
He was cut off when he felt something hit him hard and quick at the back of his neck. He groaned in pain, and he knew no more. A man shot towards Joseph to catch him before he hit the ground. "He's out cold. Let's get him out before somebody finds out," the only female in the group said.
Yeah, hey, what's that?
The man that caught Joseph said as he pointed Joseph's in-ear. Another male walked towards them and pulled the in-ear out.
It's an in-ear.
The man brought it closer to his mouth and said,
Whoever is listening from the other end, no harm will come to little Joseph. In time, he will be returned.
With that, the in-ear was crushed.
Do you have to crush it, Lisciani?
The man holding Joseph said.
Who knows, maybe the thing had a tracker in it. We don't want to risk it, Ryu.
Lisciani said as he stood up.
Let's get going, Adriana. Help Ryu with Joseph.
Lisciani said as he jumped out of the window where they had entered when Ryu informed them of the appearance of Joseph Lloyd. Adriana sighed at his tsundere brother and walked closer and examined the peaceful face of Joseph. She frowned when she saw the wound on his neck. She pulled out a handkerchief from her pocket. She tied it gently around his neck to stop the slow flow of blood. "How did he manage to knock you out, anyway?" she asked Ryu. Ryu smirked as he looked at Joseph fondly.
Use some kind of plant that sprinkled some weird powder. I was out in seconds.
Adriana looked at Ryu's open expression of fondness and love and looked at them sadly. They have a bond that are forbidden and dangerous if the king finds out. Adriana shook her head. Her sister didn't manage to have her fairy tale ending with her wolf prince. She'll make sure that her son, Adriana's nephew, will have that, even if it means killing her bastard of a father. Ryu stood up effortlessly, even with Joseph in his arms.
Come on, let's get him back to the queen before his cousin come kill us.
Ryu said with a teasing look in his eyes. Adriana giggled. They exited the hidden room together. Ryu jumped out the window as Adriana tilted the painting back and the hidden door shut close. When they were all back in the car, Adriana saw how gently and lovingly Ryu held Joseph close to him, how gently he was caressing Joseph's cheek, how he frowned with a sad look in his eyes when he took in the bounded wound on Joseph's neck, murmuring a silent apology. She looked to her right and saw Lisciani was too, looking at them. When their gaze locked, Adriana knew they shared the same idea. They will make sure Ryu and Joseph have a happy ending with everything they have.